Welcome to Majesty in the Moment. I am Majesty AliNICOLE WOW. I'm excited to be with you for this segment. If you're new to this particular segment, these are impromptu segments that I come forth and do as I feel guided. There's typically not a set topic or focus. I just come forth and allow kind of what I'm feeling in the moment, the space to kind of give me the triggers in terms of what to talk about. And so for those of you maybe aren't familiar with me and my branding, I'm a multi-mission preneur, and I'm cross-trained in over 200 areas and have over 300 works on Amazon for different industries. And so I come forth, as I mentioned, just doing impromptu segments so I can break forth into some type of training, some type of motivational or empowerment speaking. I just allow the space again to kind of give the triggers for what is wanting to emerge. So I love doing this because the power of the present moment is so phenomenal. And it also gives an opportunity when you know that you're prepared on multiple levels to be able to step into any functionality at any given time to serve at the highest level. And so that's what I'm all about, and demonstrate for others how they can step into their authentic allness power to be able to do that too, based on being present with their experiences and just being ready to be come all things to all if you need to be. So yeah, so I'm just being present to see what wants to come forth. Give a disclaimer. I just get present with my experience and share from there what's going to be most relevant. None of what I share, whether it's an activation or so that comes forth, it's never any type of channeled information or so. This comes from just, again, the being present with my experience, and then allowing myself to be divinely guided to share from the overflow and wealth of wisdom that I have gained over my lifetime. All right, so we'll see what's going to come up today. And it's interesting that I started talking about the allness, which is one of my major works and major empires, being authentically you. And that's basically being all of who you are. That's the true authenticity. And being able to become all things to all. In my case, is BEE come, being able to cross-pollinate all of who I am. So I don't know if that's going to be a focus for this segment in a sense, but I think it's a good jump off, since that kind of came up as a trigger for me to start talking about individuals really stepping into the fullness of who they are and exploring that, and being able to bring forth these different levels of who you are to the world at different times. All right. So I know a lot of people focus on finding a life purpose and a life mission and wanting to live that out. And a lot of times it's very limited. It's a very one-dimensional type of focus of doesn't allow the fullness of who you are. And sometimes people take that on as an identity, right? They start embodying and embracing and embodying a certain function that they're good at or feel called to as an identity. For myself, I'm the allness of it, so I don't allow myself to get boxed into, any one framework or work. Most people know for me, it is about just bringing the fullness and then serving from my life as a whole. I often say my life is my niche. And so I let life kind of guide me in terms of how I need to serve, where I need to show up. So I've done this in a variety of ways through products and publications and different services for sure throughout the years. But this is what I love about the power of the present moment, is to be able to, whatever is calling me forth, to step into that role and functionality. So that's why even in these segments, I can be organic. And if you haven't heard other segments, please go back and listen to some. there'll be a link to the playlist within the description, okay? So yeah, so being just in whatever mode, if I need to just be in the talking mode of just inspiring or ranting or however I'm using the fullness of who I am, but I certainly can step into, again, doing a training and activation, or bringing forth a client to call up to do a workspace session or so. It's just whatever is hitting in the moment. So going back to talking about being able to bring forth the fullness of who you are, all right? Now, when you are bringing forth the fullness of who you are, it doesn't mean that you're doing everything at one time, in a sense. It's just that you're present with the whole of who you are and knowing that you can step into whatever functionality is going to be required. And it doesn't matter what level that functionality is. And people have to learn that there are areas where you're going to be very skilled, masterful, expert in that particular area. And then there are other areas where you are just the 1 or 2 steps ahead expert for someone. You know something that someone else doesn't know. So you can operate from all these different levels. And I've talked about this in other segments. You can operate from these different levels of yourself. And that's bringing still the fullness of who you are and not neglecting different giftings, right? So let's just say that you have a hobby around something and you feel like, well, I'm not an expert or authority to be teaching that. Well, that's not necessarily true because you can find like-minded people who have that same hobby, right? Or someone who maybe is just starting out with that hobby and you can inform them about the best ways to get started. So that is using a part of you that maybe you just see it as kind of just casual conversation. It's not really a big deal. See, like for me, I'd use all of my life. So if I'm 1 or 2 steps ahead in an area, then I'll share that with someone. That means I've had the experience around it. Then I create a product about it, whether it's an audio product or a publication. And I let that then be the one-off that consistently pays off. I don't necessarily start now building a brand around that particular focus. No, it's just that that's my contribution to someone who is not aware of that. And then that helps them to get started on that path, all right? So being able to step into, like I said, all these different levels of yourself as need be. The allness of you just means that you are available. You're telling God that I'm available to not be limited to what I think my primary purpose is. So you can step into, yeah, those roles and those functionalities, all right? So for someone who's into gardening or landscaping, yard work, or however, you could work a 9-to-5 job doing something else, right? But if someone calls upon you and says, I need my grass cut, I've been looking for someone for lawn service or so, and you could step into that role easily. And you could opt to get more business with that if you choose. It could lead to something more, right? But the thing about it is, let's say that even you're not that good at it, but you can do it. And you do it for someone and you get paid for it. That's still using a gift of yours. That's still bringing the all. Even if you're not doing that part consistently, is that if you have a functionality and a gifting, can you and will you be willing to step into that role for the moment to provide a solution? It really gets to be that easy. I talk a lot about this in my work, Disruptive Living, with Lifeonomics, of using the economy of life and being able to be resourceful and also just more expansive, all right? So this is just simple and just practical. Okay, I don't know that this segment is going to be fully around this, but it just is kind of, the jump start. But it is something for you to be thinking about in terms of how can you look at yourself in a cohesive yet categorized way to start sharing from areas that maybe you don't think that that's your main thing. But again, how can it help and serve someone? Can you write a blog about that particular aspect? And then possibly provide some type of product around that, even if you're not an entrepreneur, so to speak. There's nothing wrong with making impact and income and creating multiple streams of revenue. Again, even if it is the one-off that pays off. So since I brought that up, I'm going to have to share platforms that you can use, and I share these in other segments too. But if you want to create some type of mini book or a micro messenger book, something like 30 to 70 pages, you can use a platform that's called Kindle Direct Publishing, which you can publish larger books, but I'm just saying in terms of this particular initiative, just doing something that is low to medium content. So Kindle Direct Publishing is a company of Amazon. It's a print-on-demand company of Amazon, and you can be published within 24 to 72 hours. And it's free to use the platform. You don't even need to have a paid ISBN. They provide ISBNs and book cover templates or so, and you can use that platform and be able to upload a simple project that is helping someone who is embarking on a particular aspect that you, let's say, are 1 or 2 steps ahead. Or if you want to provide something where you are an expert in that area, you can. It can still be a short form content, 3 to 5 things someone should know about a particular area. So that's a publication. And again, within 24 to 72 hours, you are up and published on Amazon, whether ebook, paperback book, or so, those formats. So that's easy. And then there's a platform called Gumroad that if you want to use like a Zoom recording, audio, or the MP4, and do some type of mini training or info training or so, then you can take those recordings and then upload them to the platform Gumroad, which is free to use, and it's very easy to sell from that platform, and you get an individual product link, per product that you create. And so, so there you go. So I won't get too far down the rabbit hole with the functionalities and other benefits of these platforms, but those are just ways that you can start to share. So I'm just sharing with you things that I've done over the years in terms of, yes, my high level areas of expertise, and then something again that I'm a few steps ahead or have some knowledge around and experience, then I just create for that level. And again, I don't necessarily brand myself in any context because I am the allness. And I just allow that allness of me to come forth. All right. So I feel that I'm going to segue to talk about something else. So I'm just being present with that. But it was good to kind of seed you all with that and also give you kind of just a little peek and insight into the window of my experience of things that I do, just on a very practical level, being able to use all of who I am. And like I said, and step into whatever role I need to at any given time. So let me be present here and see what else is. So it's interesting. Something that's coming up now is about being ready to take off. And I'm sensing that most of you have prepared yourself to a certain degree that you're ready for this liftoff, a new launch in your life. All right. And so it's good that I actually talked about bringing forth the allness of you in a sense. And for those of you who maybe haven't created products and haven't used yourself, allowed yourself to be used in various ways, this could be the launching of something new for you with just the particular initiative of entrepreneurship or just expanding your purpose in a very new way. All right. But being ready to take off. So I'll see what type of format I'm going to go into. Maybe I'm going to start a motivational talk or so. I'm just being present here. But so on the note of takeoff, so when we think about a rocket ship, launching into orbit, there has been a process in terms of preparing for liftoff, right? So as I mentioned, most of you are at that point where you've prepared, but you're ready to lift off. And some of you are wondering, why haven't I actually lifted off yet? Because I've tried to lift off, right? But something that's coming up now is that, yes, you've tried to lift off, but you're being called to lift off and launch in a new way. And you're still trying to lift off and launch your life or whatever the endeavor is based on what is familiar to you. So this is the time of stepping into the unfamiliar zone of liftoff and starting to launch and lift off in a new way, all right? And so even as the Bible consistently talks about God doing a new thing, you have to be always synced up with that new thing. So doesn't mean that you're suspending all of the old or all of the familiar ways that you've done things, because those have served you. But maybe there's an expanded context around what you need to be lifting off with now, okay? Looking at that in a new way. So this is where you have to take the time out to be present and to start to know what's emerging. What's this new launch look like? What's this new lift off look like? Ask yourself questions. Are there any aspects of my previous experience of starting my life anew or starting something anew? Is there anything from that experience that I can bring and utilize it in a new way now? All right. Or am I at a completely different crossroad where it's new opportunities, new ways to see myself launching my life anew? So these are questions that you really have to be present with, that you have to sit with, so that as you're starting to take action towards your goals, then you're doing it in the most aligned way. I talk a lot in different teachings about accurate preparation, being accurately prepared so that you can align and be very congruent with what's expanding, what's emerging, so that you do it the right way, in a sense. And I know there are schools of thoughts around, well, there's not really a right or wrong way. Everything's learning lessons. Yes, that's true. But there are instances where you need to accurately do something because it's going to save you on time. It's better ways to do things. And I've done some talks, around that too. So yeah, you are at a point who this is resonating with. It's accurate preparation time for that accurate liftoff, all right? And launching your life anew. So again, going back over those questions that I brought up as kind of trigger mechanics, journal prompts, so to speak. You're prompting yourself to bring forth that information. You definitely need to sit with that and allow those answers to arise, all right, in your awareness. That way you can start to take the right inspired actions from that place, because it may not seem like that's a big deal, and it seems subtle, but I always say things are subtle, but they are significant. And so, again, those of you who have been feeling like you're in a holding place, like the rocket is ready to go and I'm ready to soar into a new orbit, but I just can't seem to lift off. So yeah, so it's a new way to lift off. Now, for others, it could just be you've been sitting but you haven't lifted off yet, and now it's time to lift off. Because if you don't actually try to lift off, even in an older format or what you think, you won't know, right? So it is time to lift off. It's time to try whatever it is that you need to get into action for that part of the journey, that part of the experience. Now, if you try something and it doesn't lift off accordingly, then that's data, that's feedback, that's information. Okay, let me try a different way. But, it is good to just get present, like I mentioned, and just start asking the questions. But some of you do need to start just moving into action, because you might start overthinking. And that's another thing that keeps people from lifting off and starting to take off, in a sense, is they start overthinking, micromanaging the details. of the situation to the point then it's analysis paralysis and you're not moving forward. Now, I'm probably not really talking to anybody who's listening to this because all of you are definitely right inspired action takers, but I have to put that in because there may be that 1% that listens to this and finds that that's where they are. And this is no judgment because we all find ourselves there at some point, right? But we still have to do what's going to be required to move forward. To move forward. So yeah, so being able to start taking off in the right way and in new ways, right? They always say if you want something different, you're going to have to do something different. If you want something new, you're going to have to do something new. And it doesn't mean that what you've been doing isn't working or is something bad. It's just, it's time to shift to do something different. It is. It is. And going back to what we opened up with, sometimes that different is bringing forth other aspects of who you are that you're not really sharing with the world. So I'm pausing for a moment so that that can really sink in again. And that's a question, to ask, where am I not fully showing up? Or what areas or aspects of me are ready to come forth now and be expressed in the world? And I am going to say it for both impact and income. And now what's ready to take off? Maybe you're trying to take off in another area and that area is going to take off, but maybe, just maybe, there's another area in your life, another aspect that's ready to take off. And maybe you can't lift off and launch your life anew because you're launching one-dimensionally and you're not considering this other area that's ready to lift off too. All the time, it's not just one rocket going into orbit. Maybe you're lifting off more than one, okay? So again, holistically, just looking at your experience, that these are reasons why potentially you haven't taken off. Yeah. All right. So I think I'm going to bring this impromptu segment to a close. We've had two great focuses for you to take off from, so to speak, and work with those. Like I said, I like being able to just come and be in the present moment just to see what emerges and just being ready for it all. Just being ready for it all. Again, there'll be information in the description and also a playlist to other segments. And I am wishing you the absolute best in what you're endeavoring to do during this time. And looking forward to being back with you soon. And until the next time, take off, lift off, and launch yourself anew. And I'll be back with you soon. Take care and stay blessed.